People always say, I hurt myself because I lifted wrong, or I shouldn't have bent like that. But here's the thing, if that movement was truly dangerous, then everyone doing it would be injured too. What actually happened wasn't about that one bad rep, that one bend. It was something else, something happening behind the scenes in your body that changed your tolerance in that exact moment. And most people have no idea it's even happening. So in this video, we're going to break down the surprising factors that dictate whether you get injured or not, and why it's almost nothing to do with having the perfect form. We'll go through the hidden factors that quietly chip away at your body's ability to manage physical activity, and give you practical steps that you can take to raise your resilience so you can train harder, feel stronger, and stop worrying about tweaking something again. Have you ever had an injury that felt completely random? One moment you're moving through your day just fine, and the next you twist, reach, step or bend, and something sharp hits you. And the first thought that you have is, what the hell, how did I injure myself doing something like that? A client once said to me, I've just been doing the same routine, the same exercises, the same movements, and suddenly their back just went. No warning, no dramatic moment, just a normal movement that caused so much pain. But here's the truth. That moment wasn't random at all. When we rewound the last few days, and even the last few weeks, the story became clearer. Their body had been quietly giving them hints, subtle signs that its tolerance for managing load was dropping, long before they actually got hurt. The movement they blamed wasn't the cause. It was simply the straw that broke the camel's back. So let me explain. Every day, your body is balancing two things. First is your load. So that is anything or any demand that puts stress on your body, such as exercising, steps, lifting, work, poor sleep, or lifestyle stressors. And then there's your body's capacity, which is how much stress your body can handle today. And this changes constantly based on your overall health, your recovery, your sleep, your movement quality, and so on. An injury happens when the load quietly creeps past the capacity, not because a movement was dangerous and not because your form failed, but because your body's ability to adapt was temporarily lower than the stress placed upon it. Think of it like a cup. Your capacity is the size of the cup, and your daily stressors are the liquid filling it. As long as the liquid stays below the rim, you're fine. But as soon as it overflows, that's the moment when things get irritated, strained, or injured. And that overflow is almost always building up, long before the moment you blame it on. This is the lens we're going to use for the rest of the video. Everything that causes an injury fits into this simple equation. Load exceeds capacity. Your tolerance isn't fixed. It changes day to day, even hour to hour. And here are the biggest things that shrink your capacity cup. First, lack of exposure to certain movements. Your body can tolerate imperfect form. Humans are built to move in all kinds of positions. We tried in angles and shapes that aren't perfectly aligned because our body is adaptable. But this adaptability only happens when you're exposed to these positions. If you rarely train bending or rotating or rounding or moving outside your usual patterns, your capacity in those positions stays low. So it doesn't matter how perfect your form is in the positions you do practice. If your body has very little experience in other shapes, your tolerance there will be much lower. Here's the important part. Your capacity cup isn't the same for every area of the body or every movement. You can have a large cup or high tolerance in positions you train often, but a much smaller cup in positions you rarely expose yourselves to. So even if you're strong and skilled in one movement, a lack of exposure in another means capacity is lower, making it easier for load to exceed that local cup and cause an irritation or an injury. That's why even a simple movement can suddenly feel dangerous, because overall capacity is reduced into positions you never train. It's not the form causing the problem, it's the limited exposure. When the exposure is low, capacity is low, and injury risk rises. If you never train bending, if you avoid rounding, if you always lift in perfect form, then your body never develops capacity in other positions. Your tissue adapts to what you expose them to. Avoid a movement entirely, and your capacity in that position stays extremely low. So when life puts you in one of those positions, such as picking up a child or tying your shoelace or lifting something awkward, it feels dangerous, but it's not dangerous. You're just unprepared for it. The next is doing too much too soon. Every year when the sun comes out, people dust off their runners and suddenly go for a couch to 5k. Your tissues simply haven't had time to adapt. A sudden spike in training load, like more distance or more intensity or more reps or more weight, pushes your load far beyond its current capacity. And this is one of the most common reasons for injury. Also, having a low base strength. And this shouldn't come as a shock to you, but stronger tissue can tolerate more stress. And consistent training thickens and fortifies muscles and tendons and ligaments and even bone. On the other hand, weaker tissue has less structural resilience and fatigues faster, meaning even moderate or familiar loads can overwhelm it and push you past its capacity. And the important thing to note here is you don't have to be a bodybuilder to benefit from this. You just need to be strong enough for your environment and the demands of your day-to-day life. Strength isn't just muscle, it's tendon, ligament, and bone resilience. When you train consistently, these tissues thicken and strengthen, increasing your capacity. A low strength base means your capacity cup is much smaller. Next is poor recovery. This is where things like sleep, stress, fatigue, and nutrition come in. Paying attention to the psychosocial aspects of your life can also have a huge benefit. Poor sleep reduces your body's ability to repair and recover. People sleeping under 7 hours a night have a 1.7 times higher risk of injury. And people sleeping under 6 hours a night double the risk of injury. In other words, a bad night's sleep shrinks your cup size, meaning you can handle less the next day. Next is stress. High stress keeps your system in a fight or flight, raises cortisol, increases muscle tension, and slows tissue healing. People with high stress are significantly more likely to get injured. All of this shrinks your capacity before you even start moving, not just in training, but in everyday life. Make you less resilient, whether you're in the gym, carrying shopping bags, working long hours, or dealing with normal physical demands of a day-to-day life. Now, also nutrition is my speciality, but what we fuel our body with directly influences how well it functions, recovers, and handles stress. So overall, observing things through this lens, injuries stop feeling random. The movement you blamed wasn't the cause. It was simply the moment where your total load finally exceeded your capacity. Your cup had been filling with rapid spikes in training, movement you rarely expose yourself to, a low strength base, poor sleep, high stress. Each one chips away at your tolerance. None of them scream for attention, but together they shrink your capacity until even a normal movement can overflow the cup. Once you understand this, you can stop fearfully chasing the perfect form and start focusing on what actually builds resilience. And now let's talk about what increases your capacity. The things that make your body harder to injure, not just in training, but in everyday life. And the first thing you want to do is build strength, but gradually. Strength training is one of the most powerful tools you have. As I mentioned, it doesn't just build muscle, it builds tendons and strengthens ligaments and even bone. And all of these tissues become thicker, tougher, and more capable of absorbing load. And remember, you don't need to be a bodybuilder, you just need to be strong enough for the demands of your environment. If your life involves lifting kids, carrying shopping, doing manual work, or pushing fitness, your body needs strength to match that. So you can start simple, 2 days a week of basic movements, squats, hip hinges, pushes, pulls, and progress gradually. Progress your training sensibly. Your body loves progression, but it doesn't like being surprised. Jumping from nothing to everything, the classic zero to hero approach, overwhelms your tissue. But slow, sensible increases in workload give your body time to adapt. Good general rule is increase your volume or intensity gradually over weeks and not days. Think of progression as giving your tissue the heads up before you ask them to do a bit more. Next, you want to try and improve your sleep quality. Sleep is not optional if you want to stay injury-free. It's time your body rebuilds tissue, restores energy, and resets the nervous system. Better sleep increases your capacity. Poor sleep shrinks it. Aim for consistent sleep and wake times. Keep your screens out of the last hour of your evening. Avoid late night caffeine. And keep your room cool and dark. Small changes lead to improvements in resilience. And the last thing is managing your stress levels. Stress is not just emotional, it's also very taxing on the body and uses an abundance of resources. It tightens muscles, increases cortisol, reduces coordination, and slows recovery. You don't need to eliminate stress, but you do need to learn how to balance it. Daily walks, breath work, mindfulness, hobbies, or even short breaks during a chaotic day can keep your system from staying in a permanent fight or flight. When stress drops, your capacity for managing load rises. Increase your movement variety as well. You didn't hurt yourself because you bent wrong. You hurt yourself because you hadn't bent that way in a long time. Your body's incredibly adaptable, but only if you expose it to different angles, positions, and loads. Training only one perfect form creates a narrow window of tolerance. Moving outside it when you have no experience can be risky, and that's why it's important to have movement variation. So regularly mix in bending variations, rotations, slight flexion under light loads, uneven or awkward lifts, but slowly and safely. This builds resilience in the positions you actually encounter in life. And prioritize recovery. Recovery isn't downtime, it's the part where your body adapts, gets stronger. And good recovery includes rest days, lighter weeks after heavy weeks, adequate hydration, enough protein, and enough calories to support your activity. A well-recovered body builds capacity. An under-recovered body breaks down. Injuries stop feeling scary when you understand this model. Body isn't fragile, it's adaptable. It gets stronger when you give it the right inputs. So the next time something feels tight or irritated, instead of thinking, what did I do wrong in that moment? Ask, what has my load been like? And what has my capacity been like? These questions lead to better solutions, better progressions, smarter recovery, and more movement variety, stronger tissues, and a calmer nervous system. If you found this helpful, please make sure to like the video and subscribe so I can keep making content that genuinely helps.